Selamat pagi, Doktor. Selamat pagi,
Okay.
Cik Laila.
Kita tunggu lagi dua orang peserta, Anutra dan juga Vioni. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. I'm Dr. Nazifah Muhammad Azali, your chairperson for this session. For all, I would like to welcome the presenters and attendees of this third ICSTEM conference 2020. Okay, before we begin, I would very much appreciate if all of participants and attendees to kindly put their phone on the silent mode through this session. Okay, so for everyone attention, the presentation will take about 15 minutes to 12 minutes is allocated for presentation and another 3 minutes for Q&A session. For Q&A, raise your hand or mute your microphone to ask question. Okay, so for 10 minutes into the presentation, I will ring the bell once. 2 minutes later, I will ring the bell twice and we will proceed to Q&A session. So after 3 minutes of Q&A session, I will ring the bell once and we will proceed with the next presentation.
Assalamualaikum and hi to everyone. On behalf of the ICSTEM Foundation as the organizer, a warm welcome and selamat datang to all of you. Heartfelt gratitude is extended to all distinguished speakers and participants for coming and participating in this ICSTEM 2021. I sincerely hope that all of our effort in sharing and exchanging ideas throughout this conference will create and enhance public interest as well as awareness on the importance of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics known as STEM. It is hoped that everyone enjoy this virtual conference under the new norm, and may you have a delightful and fruitful deliberation throughout the conference with us. With that note, I wish all of you happy conferencing and thank you.
Okay, so without further ado, I will call upon our first presenter, Nur Laila Sari binti Husin, from SMK Pengkalan Berangan, Terengganu, to present the title Back Extender. Please welcome Cikgu. Cikgu nak kami share ataupun cikgu nak share sendiri? Please unmute the microphone, cikgu. Cikgu, please unmute the microphone. Kita share.
Okay.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Okay.
Salam.
Okay, thank you for the host. Good morning and Assalamualaikum. I'm Nolaila Sari binti Hussein, teacher from SMK Pengkalan Berangan, Marang, Terengganu. And today, I want to share a simple innovation made by student and the project named Back Extender. Actually, this project based on the teaching and learning in classroom. As we know, our new syllabus based on the SKP, we need to assess students in the class. So this is one activity my students supposed to do, and my student get assessment from this. But I just give them freedom to make their chosen. They can choose their own topic and do questioning, what supposed to do, and follow all multidiscipline in STEM. But last, they must solve their solution. But last, and they must solve what they want. They must answer all their questions, and they must have innovation. So this innovation made by my student. And can you share my video?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nafakra binti Yusuf and I am from SMK Pengkalan Berangan, Marang, Terengganu. Today with my friend Siti Suraya binti Isman, we wish you a warm welcome and remember to always love STEM knowledge.
Assalamualaikum, I am Siti Suraya binti Isman and we will introduce the innovation that we have created based on PDPC physics, namely the extender bag.
The extender bag is a bag collector that we have created based on the pressure concept. We all know that pressure is a force per unit area. This idea sparked out through our observation of Form 1 and Form 2 students. We found out that they are stuffing their bag with a fairly high load, which can be exhausting them.
We studied this problem and have found that the weight of the load can be reduced through a wide surface. So we have tried carrying several school bags that have varying strap weights. We found that the high strap weight reduced the load of the bag. This is because we use the same load in a strap bag that has that varying surface.
So my friend and I have made an initial sketch to make this bag connector. We have drawn some model with the help of our mentor teacher. We have successfully selected a model that has been enumerated. to have suitable features such as has high durability, soft, adjustable, and importantly, comfortable.
While we feel what we are producing is not a great product, but we are proud to be able to help alleviate the problem of heavy bags for our school siblings. We can also dive into the topic of stress that has been learned in the SPM Form 4 Physics syllabus through the method that our teacher always recommend, namely through the concept of 5E: engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. The extender bag we made was only as a prototype due to constraints that we could not avoid because the movement control command was being implemented at the time we made this project. For the actual production, we use high quality fabric and it is placed a soft span for comfort and stability. We also put an adjustable strap according to the shape or width of the wearer's body.
And last but not least, we hope this product to be widely used after this and will continue to make improvements for even more benefits. Inshallah, thank you.
Right, that's all the presentation made by my student. And if you have any question, you can ask me.
Okay, so thank you, Cikgu, for the presentation and very creative. Very creative idea. So, is there any question from the floor? Just mute the answer the microphone and mute.
Nak tanya je apa?
Okay. Have any question?
Ya. Assalamualaikum cikgu.
Waalaikumsalam.
Very nice presentation. But when I saw your presentation just now, you just measure the surface, isn't it? And then for to cover the bed, the extended bed, I think you have to reduce the vibration and also the surface. I mean, it's better that you also measure the volume of bed that will be handled by the student, the volume and also the density. But very nice research that you made for the early stage. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you for your suggestions. But this project made during MCO, and this project
I know.
Okay, so communication just in Google Meets and WhatsApp.
That's very nice, and for the early stage, it's very good. 100% total, very good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is there any question?
Any question?
Okay, my comment, Cikgu, my suggestion, you should pattern this idea because you after you pattern, maybe you can go to another innovation to expose your product for the maybe for the industry that like to collaborate to be more.
Okay, after this, I can do improvement.
Okay.
and do the real one, not the prototype.
Yeah, because the idea is there. So just explain the idea. Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
there is many many problem. I can
Okay.
I just can do prototype, and after this maybe I do a real one and can do it lah. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, welcome. Thank you, Cikgu, for sharing. Okay, we will proceed to our second presenter for today. Madam Winnie Sims Hewley from Victoria Institution, Kuala Lumpur, to present the title of the project, Integration of Multiple Representation Level and Weight Time Approach in Chemistry Lesson, Self-Reflection. Okay, please welcome.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me begin with the common scenario in my chemistry lesson. Ali, what is the operation at the top? Very quickly, Ali responded. Colorless gas bubbles is released at anode, teacher. Very good, Ali. Why is the colorless gas bubbles at anode? Chong looking down. Chong, why is the colorless gas released at the anode? Don't know, teacher. Mutu, why is the colorless gas released at the anode? Good morning, Dr. Razifah, Chairperson, Mr. Muhammad Wadila, host for DAY2, fellow presenters, and to all present. The introduction that I have acted just was the common scenarios during question and answer session in my chemistry. What happens normally is I tend to repeat the if my students
Winnie,
can't answer it,
we,
and
we
then
can,
moving
we can,
on to ask the
Winnie,
same
Winnie, we
question
can
to
see
another
your slide.
student.
Winnie, sorry. We can see your slide. So can
Hello?
host share the slide and you just present.
Actually,
I
I'm not
think
yet start. I
your
haven't
line
start.
is not bit.
I haven't start the slide yet. Actually.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I tend to ask the same question to other students without giving time for them to think. Hence, I, Winnie Sims Yuli, from Victoria, of my study and integration of multiple representation levels and weight time approach in chemistry lesson, a self-reflection. The topic chosen for this study is redox equilibrium. Why do I choose redox equilibrium? Firstly, based on the analysis of past year STM questions, paper 2, from 2010 until 2019, there will be questions asked on this topic without fail. Actually, redox equilibrium is a combination of two topics, electrochemistry and oxidation in the chemistry KBSM syllabus. Second, based on the Kupasan Mutu Jawapan by Malaysian Education Syndicates, students were found weak in explaining the concept. For example, in STM 2013 question 4, students were not able to explain the reason hydrogen ion is selectively discharged. And then in STM 2014 question 4, students were not able to explain on the presence of the free-moving ions, gave inaccurate observations, failed to write the formula of the product correctly, and were weak in writing and balancing the chemical equation. And in the latest Kupasan Mutu Jawapan, in SPM 2017 question 8, students did not use the word atom in explanation. and they were not able to state the reasons the ions chosen to be discharged. Learning chemistry involves the understanding of chemistry concepts. These chemistry concepts can be viewed at multiple representation levels, which are macroscopic, submicroscopic, and symbolic. Macroscopic deals with the observable world, okay, by using our senses, okay, hands-on activity, experiments, or even demonstration by the teachers. For example, combustion of hexane. So based on the experiments, students can see that hexane burns with a yellow sooty flame. Submicroscopic deals with the particulate level, which involves the atoms, molecules, ions, and electrons. While symbolic level, okay, it deals with the chemical formula, chemical equations. So this triangle is also known as chemistry triangle by Johnstone, 1991. Gilbert and Tragus named it as triplet relationship, and also known as chemistry triplet by Palantir, 2011. So now let us see the relationship between these multiple representation levels, STM questions, and the kupasan mutu jawapan. So based on the kupasan mutu jawapan, the first one, inaccurate observation. Example of STM question, state the observation at cathode. So this question asking at the macroscopic level. Second, not able to explain on the presence of the free moving ions. Okay, did not use the word atom. Example of STM question will be explain how the current is produced. So this question is at submicroscopic level. The third one, students were found weak in writing and balancing chemical equation. Example of STM, the half equation at cathode. So this is the question at symbolic level. I have carried out a pre-test to my Form 5 students, and this is the result. So you can see here the percentage of students answered correctly was simply 58.6% at microscopic level and only 8.3% at symbolic level. During question and answer session, 51.7% students were unable to answer questions at submicroscopic and symbolic levels. So I did my self-reflection and I told myself that I have to do something to help students. So I carried out this study. The general objective of this study is to improve my students' performance in STM Chemistry Paper 2, specifically to help my students to explain redox reaction in electrolytic cell at multiple representation levels. A total of 29.5 students, 17 years old, were involved in this study. They were from 2 pure science classes, 5X and 5Y. Majority of students are average students. The technique that I have applied here is I have integrated the multiple representation levels and weight time. Macroscopic, microscopic, symbolic, and weight time. Of course, I cannot tell my students, okay, you have learned this chemistry, macroscopic, submicroscopic, and symbolic. What I tell my students is you should be able to state the option, explain what's happening during the reaction. They are sure to write the chemical equation, half equation, or ionic equation involved in the reaction. During the process, students need time to think. So teachers should allocate a period of silence, which is also known as weight time, an important aspect in teaching and learning process. Go 1974 research of weight on weight time. She has weight time 2, weight time 1, and weight time 2. In this study, I focus on weight time 1. Weight time 1 is the length of time after asked question. So why is wait time important? So on the research, wait time students' involvement, according to Mercer and Hawkins 2000. Melissa 21, Hawkins 2008, proven that wait time improved the quality of students' answer. And Opata 20 has proven in his research that wait time could improve the students' performance in chemistry. Next, we move on to the implementation of the study. First, I have conducted the pre-test on the 22nd and 23rd of February, where the students need to answer one structured question in 10 minutes during online lesson. The next 14 lessons were where interventions were made. So I have integrated the multiple representation levels and consciously include the wait time during question and answer session in my chemistry lessons. And then where the students need to answer one structured question in 10 minutes during the lesson. Let's look at the findings. Overall, the students managed to answer the question improvement in topic, submicroscopic, and symbolic levels. A significant improvement can be seen at submicroscopic level, where the percentage of students answer correctly increased from 58.6% to 82.8%, and at the symbolic level of 48.3% to 72.4%. This is the question asked in the test. This question is taken from the question 4. First one, why does the bulb light up? So this question asks the students to explain. So this question is at submicroscopic level. Second question, write the formulae for the ions present. So this question is at symbolic level. Third question, state the observation at cathode. So this question is at macroscopic level. And the fourth question, write the half equation at cathode. This question is on symbolic level. Besides than that, I have gathered document evidence. So when the school reopens in April 2021, my students have carried out experiments on electrolytic cell. So this is the lab report from respondent R03. Students able to explain at macroscopic level. Here are the observations. Explain about the presence of ions and what's happening. Submicroscopic level to write the half equation at anode and cathode at submicroscopic, at symbolic level. This session during chemistry lesson, oralists are also, you can see that it managed to answer the concepts asked at macroscopic, submicroscopic, and symbolic levels with the integration of wait time. As a conclusion, I would like to suggest all the chemistry teachers to integrate these multiple representation levels and wait time in their chemistry lessons to help the students understand the chemistry concepts and to improve their performance in chemistry SPM papers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lily, for the sharing method. So, is there any question from the floor about the innovation of self-reflection? Okay, so, any question from the floor?
Good morning, madam. Can you hear me?
Morning.
Yeah.
Yes, can. Very clear.
Yeah. For the pre-test, I saw the number of students. You take the student for the same level performance or a different performance student?
Okay, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Most of my students are average ability. Most of them are the grade B and C, almost of the same ability, average ability. Only 2 or 3 students are considered as excellent students.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, is there any question? Yes. So, okay, so thank you, Winnie, for the slot.
Thank you.
Okay. So we move for next presenter. The third presenter for today is Anutra Sirisina from SMK Chung Hua Tenom Sabah. So the title is Take Home Experiment Kits, a pandemic pedagogical approach for teaching high school chemistry, physics and biology. Please welcome.
Okay, good morning, doctor. Can you hear my voice, kah? Hello, doctor. Okay,
Dengar.
great.
Okay,
All right, good morning, everyone. Let me just quickly share my screen. Right. Right. Let me just quickly check my time. Right. Good morning, everyone, once again, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of what we have done in line with the conference theme, which is, of course, STEM in education. And today I will be representing my team. I am Chigo Anutra Sirisena, and this is an intervention by our pure science panel, comprising of physics, chemistry, and biology teacher, coming together and creating this intervention. And we would like to share with all of you what we have done. And probably this will be something that we all can think about doing if it is in any way applicable. So Take Home Experiment Kit, THEK in short, is a pedagogical approach during pandemic. And this is actually an action research. It is also an pedagogical innovation. It is also one of our best practice. So for the purpose of the conference today, we will focus as best practice. So something that will not be too technical in terms of research. So let me give a brief introduction of what this whole thing is about. Google 2019 found that teachers using kits, it can be any kind of kits like robotic kits, STEM kits, we hear this a lot, and it's also available where we can buy and purchase easily. And based on literature shows that when students use kits, they actually significantly report a better design and implementation in laboratory investigation. So you see your students recording data better, representing those data in tables and graphs, and analyzing data in a more meaningful way. So what is the purpose of this entire idea in the context of our best practice that we would like to share? So I would like to start with a problem because it's very much an action research actually. So our biggest problem, we found that during this restrictive situation, our students are deprived from actually carrying out laboratory activities. And I believe teachers who are teaching high schools, we know that this is so true starting from 2020. In fact, our 2020 SPM candidates didn't get enough exposure to laboratory kits, laboratory experiments due to the SOPs and the frequency of coming to school. Secondly, we also know that starting 2021, all science students are compulsory for them to sit for a paper 3 SPM examination, no longer just a written exam, but a really fully tested exam. And this definitely create a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of worry among our students, parents, teachers, and also school. So as teachers, we were thinking that you can stay there, or you can think of what can we do? What can we do at this situation, at this given situation? That is when we came up with this idea of let's create something, let's do something that will give this student an opportunity to tap into these skills. Because carrying out experiment alone is already challenging. Imagine doing it on your own without a group of friends sharing a space. Because in my school, most of the time, we break students into 7 groups or 6 groups or 8 groups maximum. So that will be about 3 or 4 of them sharing experiment and sitting and working together. However, we know that in few months' time, basically less than 3 months, these kids are going to sit individually for this exam. So just imagine the amount of stress and anxiety level they are facing. Hence, we came up with this idea, but then there's a few things that we have to do. Number one is to get school management involved, the principal and the PPD, because we need to get written permission, and we send in our modules, send in the experiments we're going to do, whether it's safe or not. You know, they just want to check this because, especially chemistry, when you talk about chemistry, we deal with a lot of chemicals. So, we need to make sure that, it goes through a very strict checking and making sure that everyone is in this together. Secondly, we make sure our content. So the chemistry teacher, biology teacher, and the physics teacher sit together and think what experiments in line with the SKP from Form 5 that these students can do, that they can do at home. So what are the things that we need to substitute? What are the things we have in the lab? And how do we cater to our students? And then the third one is parental support. We made sure that parents are informed. We had a Google Meet session with all the parents, with the school management, and we make sure that we are all in line with this, and they have commitment letters to take care of the apparatus and materials, as well as they also consent on monitoring their children at home when carrying out this experiment. And after that, finally comes to the implementation part where we follow our PDPR timetable. We have our schedules, and then we monitor. Each teacher will monitor based on their subjects. So the implementation of this, if you see the box, there is a picture of how each student get a box. And in the box, we have their lab coats and all the material, physics, chemistry, and biology. Whatever that they need, we put it in that they don't have at home. And certain things that they can substitute, we will let them know what are the options they can do, or what are the options they can use, and so forth. And these materials and apparatus, some of them we use from what we have in the lab. We don't have enough, we buy, we purchase, because as all teachers know, the PCG for pure sciences have been increased to 64 ringgit 50 cents per person, compared to how it was before. It was only 14 ringgit, I think. So it was a huge amount in changes for PCG, is because to cater to this. But what are we doing with this money? And these kids are going to sit for, real lab experiments in just few months in time. What we did is, one thing that I really remember is I wanted to do thermochemistry with them, and they need thermometer. And thermometer is always a very, very, a sensitive thing to talk about when we go into the lab. So we substituted with a kitchen thermometer, which cost us less than 3 ringgit. And then we also substituted the measuring cylinder with a plastic one, because in the end of the day, you cannot get exactly what you want in the lab. But we were thinking about the purpose, where students learn to measure, students learn how to manipulate, and learn the skill and the content itself. Therefore, no harm is being done by using a cheaper option, which is also a safer option for the students. So how does this happen? Like now we go into the implementation part. So I would like to bring all of you and show you a little bit of how this whole experiment look like. Right. So I would show one of the session that I've conducted with my student, and during this lab session, it's usually about an hour, and then so you have a 10 minutes preparation, checking, making sure all the students come in the Google Meet. But remember, again, I do understand not every student have good, stable internet connection. So along the process, you will see that the 25 number of students sometimes go up to 23, go down to 23, 24, and 25, right? So let's look at a bit. So here what I was doing is to just giving them a little bit of time to set up so that I can see. Usually this is the first thing we all do when students come into the lab. We get them to clean up, prepare, arrange. So we want the same kind of practice coming in. So at home, they also have to be properly prepared before they start. We don't want them to, treat this differently. Okay, here is where, as a teacher, we monitor each student, we pin and check every single student, and then we also give some instructions there. We don't really have enough apparatus like we do in the lab, and individually students have to think of options. But then we also, of course, tell them that the rationale of using a different apparatus and what is supposed to be what, and so on. All right. So practically, when we carry out this experiment, teacher has to be very focused on monitoring. So now, say if we have students who cannot come in Google Meet, so there is also another option. It's not like every student. Sometimes even students with good internet connection can have. We in Sabah, we always have this problem with current electricity. So sometimes they don't have electricity, or the Wi-Fi just don't work, or no data. So sometimes they do have, but they cannot come in Google Meet. So they will WhatsApp me and say that they can't come in. But then, they'll be doing and sending me pictures of updating during that scheduled time. If they really cannot do it during that time, then we will schedule another time. So I think it's again very much depending on how a teacher will actually plan how you carry out this. Right. So what have we done? We have done three rounds of this experiment. The first kit we sent in the first kit in June. So that was that kit contained 4 experiments for physics and 2 experiment biology. So physics was very much on electricity at that point of time. So a few apparatus can be used for many experiments. I think the physics teacher knows this. And biology was more on the glucose uptake and also on isotonic, hypotonic experiment. So chemistry, we didn't do anything the first round due to we don't have enough material. We have to order and wait. So we started with physics and biology first. So the second round, we had 2 experiment each for chemistry, physics, and bio. And then for the third round, we have 3 on chemistry and 1 on physics. So a total of 16 experiments were done by this group of students in the span of 3 months at home. So they come, the first round, they came and took the apparatus and material, then they give back the first round, they take the second round. So that's how we did it in June, July, and August. And our students, we have 25 students, only 21 doing biology because we have an option for science computer. So 4 students actually doing science computer. So this is a little bit of survey question I asked my students prior to the program and after the program. So it's just to show that how prepared are they to sit for, when we know that they are going to sit for this paper, how they feel sitting for the exam, how prepared are they? So you can see a very, very clear change on how they feel, their own perception, and how prepared they are. So now they are very much prepared. Of course, they are not the best, but they still showed a lot of improvement. And then how about the skill? You have to manipulate on your own. You have to carry out experiment on your own. How you feel now that after the 16 experiment at home? And definitely they show a lot of improvement as well. And lastly, I asked them about how they find the excitement level. Are they still excited? So they were very excited when we first told them that this program is going to come in, but some was not, I don't know what is it really. And then after 3 months, they are still excited and they want us to continue, but we teachers are tired, but we will think how we can do this. And when I asked them to rate their learning, how much learning have they went throughout this 16 experiment, 3 months, and they find that they actually learn a lot remotely, even though, they don't have a proper lab with very limited resources, they still rate their learning 3 and above. And a lot of them think they learn a lot. And my students also said that they feel that they are better, they learn about time management, how they can do, how they have to force themselves to do something when they don't have their peers or teachers right next to them physically. So they tend to lean for support more when they have friends around them. But in this situation, their friends are not near them, so so they are able to do more. So students become more creative in finding solutions to their problem. Whether this didn't work, we don't have the battery holder. So the student have to find something to work on because it was not enough to cater for everyone. And then the student don't have, say, for example, potato. They just substitute it with cucumber, or they substitute it with sawi, the mustard stem. So I can see a lot of example of how students actually apply. So this is a real kebat happening. It's not about giving kebat questions and teaching them kebat, but it's all about giving the student opportunity to apply and learn and synthesize and then, create a solution to the problem. So from students' point of view, 71% thinks that it's a good strategy, 75% wants this to continue, and 75% of them would feel they are much more prepared to sit for the exam if they should go and sit for the exam. And from teachers' perspective, we are very happy because we get 100% interest and participation, because usually when you teach remote learning, I know we teachers, we know when we ask questions, they don't reply, ataupun, they just like, they have line problem, or they just prefer not to talk. But they have no choice but to ask you, because they're conducting like this. Now you can see that my student were asking, teacher, can I do this? Can I do that? So you get that participation and engagement from your student. And then report writing is another cool stuff that students don't like to do if they're not forced to. So we say that if you don't submit your report, you cannot go into the next round. So students' submission of report was 100%, and we are very happy. So this is the team of the teachers. We have biology teacher, Cikgu Nancy, physics teacher, Cikgu Nur Hafiza, and it was so easy to do this because we have 2 very dedicated and committed lab assistant, Mr. Adrian and Mr. Maspil. So in conclusion, what I can say is in isolation or alone, you can do very, very little. As a chemistry teacher myself, if I were to do this alone, I probably wouldn't have been able to do this much. But because we collaborated in a team effort, and we worked each other and breaking our head thinking what kind of options we can give, how to monitor students, when should we get them to come, how do we talk to the parents. So it was a team effort, and this actually bear fruit. And I think more teachers when you have support as a team, things get way more easier and less challenging and more fulfilling. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Cikgu, for interesting presentation. So, is there any question from the floor? You can ask in Malay also.
Morning, Madam.
Morning.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, is that you need any? I mean, is there any all the things you take from laboratory or you buy from your own money?
Okay. This is the thing that most of the teachers will ask as well. So most of the thing we get from the laboratory. For example, macam say for example ada alat radas yang tidak cukup. Okay, some lab apparatus is not enough, insufficient. We buy because in the end of the day benda yang memang diperlukan oleh murid untuk menduduki amali sebenar later kan. So we still need this apparatus somewhere in February 2022. So mana-mana yang kita boleh beli, what we can buy, we buy. Okay, but certain things like thermometer we can buy, but it's not safe to give them to bring back home. So that one we substitute. That one, mana yang we feel that it's not about the price, but it's about the safety purpose. We substitute with somewhat a better option in terms of we can do the job like thermometer, measuring cylinder. Tapi mana-mana yang we can get from the lab, we do it because one of the reflection from our pembantu makmal is the waste of bahan kimia. I don't know about other schools, but we face this. Like bahan kimia expired because we didn't use lab much. Last year, whole year, we couldn't use lab much. So actually, we are wasting resources. Tapi bila we do this take-home experiment kit, we pack up. Of course, ada kerja sikit. We have to label and pack for every student materials and stuff, and we have to teach them how to dispose. How kita nak buang kan alat tu, material tu bahan. So in that sense, yes, most of the thing we get from the lab. Tetapi ada benda yang kita memang belilah, we beli, so we can claim from the school under PCG because we have allocation for chemistry, physics, and biology. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah. So very kind person.
Thank
And then
you, sir.
one question again for me is
Yeah.
that you give some explanation. For example, if you teach for the acid-base experiment, right? And then the student will bring out the kit that you give them, and then is that any explanation by hard copy? The example of the experiment in their life. I mean, for example, the thermodynamic. Let's see a thermodynamic when we cooking something like that. The material. Did you give them any example?
Okay, so basically, we have a module, a soft copy module. We didn't print it out. We gave them in PDF form. So the module comprises of what we are doing in the first THEK, second and third. So the module contains of, say, for example, if I have like the first round is 4 physics experiments and 2 biology. So all is compiled in one module. So it's basically the it depends. Some is open inquiry, some is guided inquiry, depending on the teacher. We leave it to the teacher, the subject teacher. So answering to your question, do we give them guidance or whatever? Yes, because we still teach. We still teach in our remote classes. Students enter classes per schedule of time. So we do give them introduction. Like say, for example, chemistry class is tomorrow 7 o'clock lab. So today I have chemistry class. I will be giving them a lot of activity to think about the topic that they're going to sit for. So they are prepared in terms of content as well. Yeah, so definitely we do give them handouts. We do make sure the activity is in line with each other. We don't really follow our yearly plan that we planned earlier because of this intervention. So we just change a little bit here and there. Yeah. So I think that is the part that we helped.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Mr. Ahmad, I will answer this question, Doctor. For the experiment, yes, because we have our jadwal, we have our timetable PDPR. So we follow that. We don't change because nanti ganggu pula masa guru lain. So we definitely follow the time given. For example, the video I showed you was a 7 o'clock class, 7 to 9 o'clock class for my Form 5 student. So 6:30, they were already busy. Most of the time, students don't even wake up at 7. We have to wake them up. We have to call them, wake up, come, class is going to start. But because of this, this experiment, so they get very excited. They tell me that they are very excited. Even their parents texted me saying, the kids are so excited and stressed because they have to do it on their own. So yes, we follow a schedule given, and we try to keep the time according to the advice time by KPM. For example, one simple experiment takes about 30 minutes. So 45 minutes of preparation as well. So we just try to keep that. Okay, 1 hour, you finish one experiment. Simple one. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so Anitra, so are you plan to expand your project to sharing your project with another school or another teachers that want to share?
Okay, so basically, since we have already done 3 cycles, because it's an AR, we wanted to make sure, we improve and finish it. So we have completed, and now we are already planning a session in the district. We wanted to share with other chemistry teachers and probably more people who might be interested, because we feel that every teacher can do this. Chemistry, physics, and biology, we can do. Just that we need the idea of how to start, and then we can do. In fact, kalau student dah come back to school, because of the SOP, we are still going to struggle how to do experiment in the school, kan, because of the SOP. So I think that if we can do this, it's not going to stop just now, but it's going to be continuous and help our Form 4 yang belum masuk lab at all. So we are really, really worried of that. So we think that this is definitely a potential for more teachers to actually do and help our students, especially pure sciences.
So mungkin cikgu boleh share nombor cikgu dekat chat box untuk kawan-kawan dekat Terengganu. Kalau kata Sabah tu jauh sangat kan, mungkin kami dekat Terengganu ni tertinggal. Jadi mungkin boleh share, so mana-mana guru yang dalam kita punya grup ni yang dari Terengganu ataupun dari negeri lain yang berminat, mungkin boleh text sendirilah Cikgu Anusha untuk detail.
Boleh.
Dr. Nazifah?
Ya?
Can I ask a question?
Okay, boleh. Silakan.
Yeah, hi, Yvonne here. Very interesting, teacher Anu, right? Yeah. Very interesting, actually, I myself being a chemistry lecturer. So I find that during this MCO, students are left behind on their manipulative skills, especially lab work. So this is really a good effort. I just would like to inquire a few things. The experiments that you conducted, actually, were it, it was just a selective ones, is it? The one which is much easier to conduct, or do you actually do most of the experiments?
Okay. So, I mean, I know that, when we talk about chemistry, there's a lot of things that we cannot do at home, especially when we need film chambers, or we have reactive metals, or we have like strong acids. So like for acid and bases, for example, we stick to weak acids because they have vinegar at home. I wanted to make them use things that is around them, but at the same time, see the chemistry in that. But at the same time, we also worried of safety, because that is the one very no factor in PPD and also school. They will not let you do it, probably because we are in secondary school. Maybe higher learning institute have a little bit more, less restriction in that sense. But we know that, certain acid, we can still do it at home, just that it has to go through a very strict process. So in our case, we chose experiment in line with what we need to give them, but at the same time, we only selected which one is safe. Of course, there are a few that we cannot do, so that will go under video sharing, demonstration, and get them to think and do the normal online learning. But those that they can do, or those that we can actually change a little bit, so we kebatkan the experiment for our students. So let them, test something different from the textbook, and then they relate back to the textbook. That's how we try to do. So physics was easier. Physics was way more easier than biology and chemistry. Because physics, the materials are very safe. It's just that it's expensive. The materials, the apparatus. For chemistry, yeah, we definitely selected those that we think is safe only. Then only we can do. We can't do everything. I think I answered the question, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes, yes.
Doctor.
Thank you. So meaning that the apparatus from the labs were actually sent to the students, is it?
Yes,
Apparatus
yes,
from the
yes.
lab. Was
Yes,
it sufficient to actually for every student to have like for example a voltmeter or something like that,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. So what we did with that's a very good one. What we did with voltmeter and ammeter, we didn't have enough for 25, but we have enough for half. So what we did, we did a schedule like this group you do voltmeter first, this group do ammeter, then you switch. We have to do that. Like we had to schedule our students so that they can switch the apparatus.
You mean you rotate the equipment, isn't it? Yeah, you rotate the equipment.
Correct.
Really impressed with your effort to beat the student.
Yeah,
Very
I
nice.
knew that. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
all the
teachers
best,
are
all the
also
best.
very helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
thank you,
best. Yeah.
thank you.
So I guess the students are not too many. You are just trying out with a group of students,
Because
right?
my school we only have 25 SPM candidate this year, but the Form 4 we have 36. So that's why we are still, in the phase of how to start with Form 4 because the material is not enough. I mean the apparatus especially. But for school which have bigger students, you also have more teachers. So I believe it can still be done if you want to do it.
Yeah, and I believe it also involves cost. It also involves cost in getting some of the apparatus, and I'm sure if laboratories are not going to actually send apparatus which are glass, glass. Yeah, it's more viable to use plastic materials and so on as you have your measuring cylinder. So I mean it's a very interesting approach actually. But with a big number of students, I guess we need a lot of thinking to do how to actually,
Actually, I was
carry
very
this out.
inspired by University of Singapore. There was a professor there. He did this experiment kit with his university student. So he was doing physics. So I was thinking like, why not I do that in my school? So that's how it all started, the inspiration process. So I think that we can do it. It's just that we need to sit down a little bit and think how we can do it with our students.
Thank you, Teacher Anu. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Anushra, and all the questions. And we proceed to our last presenter for today is Vioni Pulandaisami from College Matriculasi Perak to present about the ATGC experiments in improving chemistry laboratory learning environment. So please welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Razifa, and good morning to all present in this room. Let me share my screen. I hope. Can it be? Is it okay? Can see the chat screen?
I can see your slide.
Can it be seen?
Okay, nampak, dengar, jelas.
Fine. Okay. Right, because okay. So I'm Yvonne Pulandesami from College Matriculasi Perak. And with my partners, Associate Professor Dr. Mageshwari Karthikeyan from USN and Mr. Satya Kumaran from College Matriculasi Perak. So in today's session, I would just like to do a little bit of sharing on a study that I conducted, which is the activity theory-based green chemistry experiments in improving chemistry laboratory learning environment. So, my presentation will actually be around, we'll talk about a little bit on laboratory learning environment, and then my intervention, the ATGC experiments, and a little bit covered on activity theory and green chemistry, then look into the methodology that is used in this study, and finally the findings and conclusions. Well, so when we talk about laboratory learning environment, so as we know, laboratory learning is such a unique mode of instruction because students actually have hands-on and a minds-on experience in the lab. So it is a setting where scientific investigation is performed. Therefore, the environment in the chemistry laboratory itself is an important determinant to students' learning. So we as a science teacher, whatever it may be, physics, chemistry, or biology, so how is our learning environment in the lab? So how do we know actually? So we have a instrument which was developed by Fraser, McRobbie, and Giddings 1993. They developed and validated the SLEI, which is Science Laboratory Science Laboratory Environment Inventory, called SLEI. And in 1997, Wong and Fraser, they used this instrument in chemistry laboratory, and they called it as CLEI. So it's just that the term of science being changed to chemistry. So the 5 dimensions of the laboratory environment was student cohesiveness. So meaning the extent to which students help each other and are being supportive. Then the next one is open-endedness. So meaning that the extent the laboratory activities are focused on open-ended divergent approach to experimentation. The third is integration, the extent to which the laboratory activities are integrated with theory classes. Then rule clarity is how the behavior in the lab was guided by formal rules. Finally is the material environment, the extent to which equipment and materials are sufficient. Well, so this instrument actually comes in 2 forms. One is the actual form and one is the preferred form. So it means that we can actually measure students' perception of their the actual perception of their laboratory learning environment and their preferred laboratory learning environment. So basically, how it is measured or how it is used is that we actually see the difference between students' actual perception of their learning environment and their preferred. So meaning that as a bigger difference exists, bigger gap between the actual and the preferred, meaning that the laboratory environment is less conducive. It's less conducive. So in review of literature, this SLEI has been used in various studies, of course, okay? And in the context of Malaysian schools, currently the traditional labs were unable to provide much conducive environment for learning. So this was actually because there were significant difference between students' actual and preferred laboratory learning environment. So next, okay. So because of this, yeah, so the SLEI instrument actually are used in various ways. Some actually just measured what are students' actual and preferred laboratory learning environment, and less actually studied the effectiveness of an intervention in improving the laboratory learning environment. So we've got the idea of doing an intervention to implement it. Okay, so based on reviews of literature, to provide a positive laboratory learning environment, it highlighted strategies where the teaching strategies were choosing the method of a frontal teacher and classroom. So it needs to be methods where students actively engage themselves, explore, be able to explore, and be involved in the process of constructing knowledge. So, and the tasks are also should be purposeful and authentic. So we actually came up with ATGC experiments. So it is used as a laboratory instructional strategy. And this ATGC experiment, there are phases in this activities. Okay, so we have a pre-lab, then we have during the activity, post-lab, and the extended post-lab. So I'll go a bit more onto that. But before that, I'll have a look at why is it ATGC. Okay, so AT is actually for activity theory. This is activity theory actually proposed Vygotsky. It's by Vygotsky, and of course this is the second generation of the activity theory, and this is by Storm 1987, who is a proponent of Vygotsky. So this activity theory actually we see that it's triangles, but there are triangles within. So it works on 6 elements. It works on 6 elements, and the connectivity of these elements are presented here actually. Okay, so the students are the subject. Okay, so they would use this, okay, as mediation to achieve object or to address problem. And this would be assisted by elements of rules and division of labor. Okay? And the teacher and the students, they are actually the community of learning, which involves to achieve the outcome. So this theory has been seen as a framework that has been used by educators in all fields. Okay? And it has led the learning of science in a new light because through literatures it has showed that activity theory has peak relevance in learning chemistry. So students felt the relevance of teaching chemistry when the framework of this activity theory was applied. Okay, and then the next one is, on the other hand, is green chemistry. So chemistry is actually a field. It's a sustainable chemistry. It's a form of chemistry designed to prevent pollution. So this green chemistry, if we do further reading on it, there is it is guided by 12 principles. And the principles of green chemistry have been introduced into the curriculum. In literatures, we have seen that it has been introduced in undergraduate courses, teacher education program, and also secondary school in laboratory work. The nature of green chemistry, actually, it has a connectivity between the subject matter and students' everyday living. When students actually have this connection in their learning, okay, they connect science concept with real world context is when a meaningful learning takes place. Okay, so the methodology, okay, the methodology which I use is mixed method, because I felt that the quantitative nor the qualitative methods are sufficient to gain insights on the role of ATGC experiments on students' perception of their laboratory learning environment. So particularly the intervention mixed method research design was used. Okay, so just a very quick one, I'll be very short over here. So in stage 1, the interview was conducted before the intervention because we wanted to gain insights on how is the current teaching, how is the current environment in the laboratory. So it showed that there were room for improving the laboratory learning environment. Then in stage 2, we adapted the green chemistry experiments. There were 11 green chemistry experiments that were in line with the current matriculation syllabus. And then we conducted the experiments as an intervention using the 1 year repeated measure design. So meaning that we gave them a skill test for the intervention. And then experiments 1 to 6 were conducted. And we had a post test 1. It means we give them the instrument to answer. And then we continued with experiments 7 to 11. Then we gave them post test 2, which is the instrument to actually answer. After post test 2, we had a interview. So basically, the qualitative interviews were seen as to see whether it supports the quantitative. Okay, so this very here, this is what I give you one example of ATGC experiments that I conducted, which is filter paper electrochemical series. So this lab is actually intended to students to arrange metals in the electrochemical CE. Okay, so we had a pre-lab. So this should be phase 1. There's a mistake over here. This is phase 1, which is pre-lab, okay, which is 2 days prior to the experiment. So before that, the students are given a lab sheet. Students are given lab sheet, have a context, pre-lab context. So for example, the ring you bought a couple of weeks ago is already turning your finger green and looks dark. So another ring that you had for several years looks almost the same. So why is this? Give them a context. So they will on this, and they will find information and kind of draws their attraction and makes them focus on the experiment that they are going to do. So basically there is searching of information, and also they have to plan an investigation. They have to plan an investigation through a guided inquiry approach. So at the beginning of the lab, which is also in the pre-lab phase, the teacher will select randomly, okay, who's going to present your findings and who's going to present the experimental procedure. So you may see some triangles over here. So these triangles actually represent the interaction of the elements or the components in the activity system. So I just give one example. For example, here when students are actually using the tools, so the tools may be internet findings or reference books or whatsoever to achieve to address the problem that is given to them. So basically, each of the phase has their interaction of the components of the activity system. Okay, then in phase 2, during the experiment, so students actually conduct the experiment and they have a student leader who divides work to their group members to carry out the procedure. And of course, the teachers will observe how it is being done and how the students record their data. So this is just, I put in some images here of how the filter paper electrochemical cell is conducted. Okay, so I'll show you a picture of how traditionally we do. And if it's a green chemistry experiment, how do we do it? So these are the interaction of the components of the activity system. Okay, and then phase 3 would be after the experiment. After the experiments, the students will normally present their results either to the whole class or to groups. So they will check on, so basically these are more on students' work. So they kind of check on any discrepancies or the voltage reading or tune. So the teacher actually just allows students to discuss and guide them wherever it is necessary. So, and then the teacher also poses some post-lab questions to them to be discussed following day. To be discussed the following day. So the phase 4 is called the extended. It's called the extended post-lab, which is conducted through the WhatsApp group on the next day of the experiment. So this is because we discuss about the context and the pre-lab of the which was given to them in this. So just a question can be posed to them about would you use the knowledge of the experiment conducted yesterday to explain and justify the pre-lab question or context. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all this. Okay, just for example, so they arrange the metals in electrochemical series according to the experimental results, and they have to use that knowledge in order to explain the context. Okay, so basically why the jewelry, which is made of iron, any reactive metal, become rusty, becomes dull. Okay, so this is where their concept is being, they use the knowledge of the experiment to explain things which we can find in daily life. Okay, so this is what I was mentioning. So the APGC filter paper electrochemical cell experiment. Okay, so this is how normally traditionally we do it. Okay, where we have metals immersed in the electrolyte. So this is the filter paper electrochemical series. So it also applies the green chemistry principle of prevention because very minimal amount of solutions or electrolytes are used in this experiment compared to traditional. Okay, so finally on the results, I didn't want to put too much of figures on there, so I just summarized it. Okay, so the research question was basically about does ATGC experiment have any significant effect on students' perception of the chemistry laboratory learning environment and its software. So we actually measured the quantitative analysis. We actually measured the overall using the one-way repeated measure MANOVA, where we saw that there were significant mean difference in students' actual and preferred laboratory learning environment between the 3-time measurements, because we measured 3 times. So we, we we saw a difference there in the pre-test, post-test 1, and post-test 2. And then we also wanted to see by subscale, by dimension. So the one-way repeated measure ANOVA showed that there were significant mean difference in the actual preferred discrepancy, meaning that the actual preferred mean discrepancies became smaller. The gap became smaller. That means actually there is an improvement in their learning environment, okay, for 3 particular dimensions, which are open-endedness, integration, and material environment. So between post-test, pre-test, post-test 1 and 2. Okay? And the qualitative analysis, the interview that we conducted, did show that students actually experienced an open-ended, because the experiments were not, like cookbook style where you just follow procedures and do it, where they needed to actually write their procedures, they were given a guided inquiry method. So the experience an open-ended approach. And because of the, how to say, we used to bring chemistry experiments as well. So they found that the laboratory activities and theory classes were integrated. There's some integration between both, and they experience a good material environment because we're using very simple to do their experiments. So basically, it did help. These experiments did help in improving students' learning environment, particularly in dimensions of open-endedness, integration, and material environment. So I think that is all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Fioni. So is there any question from the floor? Soalan? Don't have any question because I not very understand because I'm the biologist. Okay, so any question? Okay, if no question, we can end this session with the photo session. Could everyone please on the video? Pasang bagi on video je dah. Pasang bagi nampak ni. Okay, tak apa. Aku dapat dah. Okay, semua on video. Laila Sari, Edenta, Aziza, Cun, Yasinda ada lagi. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Freestyle. Jadi Cikgu Izham dah freestyle dah. Freestyle lagi sekali Cikgu Izham. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so thank you for
Dr. Azifah, unmute.
panjang dah saya cakap. Okay, so Habis dah basah orang putih saya. Okay, thank you for all the enlightening and informative presentation. Hopefully all the sharing done today will be useful in our teaching later. I believe many good experience have been shared and good lesson learned today. With that note, again, I thank you all. Please join the closing ceremony later as we will also announce the best presenter. Okay, so thank you. Bye.
Dr. Razifa?